Okay, so let's dive into some really interesting source material we've got lined up today.
Yep, that's fine.
We're looking at this piece called Legacy, Beyond Wealth for African Stars. And our goal, really, for this deep dive is to unpack the perspective it offers on, what makes a legacy stick, especially for big names.
Right, specifically focusing on African stars in this case.
Exactly. And the source, it zeroes in on a few people you'll probably know, Davido, Burna Boy.
And Akon, interestingly, is brought in as a comparison.
Yeah, so let's get into the context a bit. The material mentions someone named VDM.
Right, VDM. And some comments he apparently made about Davido and Burna Boy.
Apparently those comments got some pushback, some criticism.
Yeah, the source acknowledges that, but then it kind of pivots.
How so?
Well, it argues that VDM's actual intention, or at least the intention the source wants to focus on, wasn't really about just, criticizing them negatively.
Okay, so what was it about then?
It suggests his focus was more on their legacy, what they'll ultimately be known for long term.
Ah, okay. So less about the present moment, more about the future memory.
Precisely. And to make that point clearer, the source uses a contrast.
This is where Akon comes in.
This is where Akon comes in, yeah. The material suggests Akon's going to be remembered in Africa, but not for, the usual things.
Like what? The flashiest cars or?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not the latest cars, not the most expensive private jets. That's not going to be his primary legacy, according to this source.
So what will be then?
The source argues it'll be specifically tied to him investing his own money, his personal funds.
Investing it where?
Directly into projects for the betterment of his country. That's the key difference it highlights.
Okay, so it's contrasting personal accumulation like cars and jets with direct societal contribution.
You got it. That's the benchmark they're using for impact that lasts beyond just personal wealth.
So that really leads to the core question, right? If it's not the material wealth for Davido and Burna Boy either, according to VDM's view in this source, what is the metric?
Well, this is where the source presents VDM's central argument, and it's quite direct.
Okay.
It states pretty clearly their legacy, people like Davido and Burna Boy, it won't be decided by who have the newest car or the biggest jet.
So what does decide it then, according to this viewpoint?
The source actually quotes what it attributes to VDM. It says their legacy will be determined by the number of people you lifted out of poverty.
Wow. Okay. That's a powerful statement.
It is. And maybe a challenging one for some. It completely shifts the lens.
Yeah, away from personal success, luxury items, straight towards societal impact, helping others directly.
It forces you to think differently about how influence and resources are maybe best used, or at least how they'll be remembered according to this perspective.
And this different kind of measurement, this metric,
Right.
How does the source wrap this idea up?
It sort of circles back to VDM. It gives him praise, saying he's, quote, always speaking out the truth, even acknowledging he might not be perfect himself.
Interesting. So it's endorsing the message, essentially.
Yeah, and it suggests that actually accepting this truth, this different view of legacy is important.
How so? Important in what way?
It frames it as, freedom. Freedom from what the source calls human worship.
Human worship, meaning idolizing celebrities for their wealth.
Sort of, yeah. That focusing too much on the material stuff, the surface level achievements, can be unproductive, like an unhealthy form of admiration.
And this perspective offers a different, maybe more meaningful way to evaluate influence.
That seems to be the argument, a different yardstick altogether.
If we pull back from the specific names, this whole idea of legacy, what gets remembered, what actions really count, that's relevant for everyone, isn't it? Not just stars.
Absolutely. It makes you think about what truly builds lasting impact, whether it's on a huge scale or just, in your own community, your own life.
Yeah, how influence, whatever kind you have, gets used. So for you listening, maybe just take a moment with this idea from the source. Think about those different ways influence and money can be directed.
That contrast between the material science of success and direct societal contribution.
Right. What kind of impact do you think really lasts? How should we maybe measure a meaningful legacy beyond just the obvious things?
Yeah, definitely something worth mulling over.